comes to businesses making decisions of laying people off, the fall. So a lot of layoffs are happening right now. A lot of people are scared, getting that scary email from HR saying they want to talk to you.
Yep.
Um, so this is happening to a lot of people right now, unfortunately. Even though some of these companies got some money to help support their, employees and whatnot, but I don't know where it happens to that money. But they're still laying
Well,
people off.
the problem they did use that money, but the problem is that they didn't come out with another stimulus package that they should have done in July. So all of that money dried up. Like people forget, like the cost of labor for businesses, anywhere between 40 and 60% of all overhead is paying the people to do the work. So there's a lot of money that goes into keeping it where people don't get evicted from their apartments. But the government does not give a fuck about us at all.
So Phil can drop this article real quick. We can show this article. So I think it's interesting. Why do layoffs? Why is this happening? The coronavirus outbreak has triggered an unprecedented, which is a word that's been used a lot this year,
Mm-hmm.
unsurvivable and unprecedented mass layoffs and furloughs. Here are the major companies that have announced their workforce. This article is as recent as 12 hours. It may be more, as we so to speak, but this is what we have. That's 12 hours ago from the Business Insider. Over the six
Yeah,
months, more than
imagine.
60 million Americans have filed for unemployment. That is doing it. Wow. Were you going
And,
to say
and
Dr.
then you
Demetrius?
look at the fact when you look at the fact that a bunch of people are scheduled to be laid off tomorrow, October 2nd, for those watching in the future. All of this is happening exactly 1 month before the election. A whole bunch of people just lost their jobs. So you have a president
So,
that's trying to
so,
tell
so you have
people,
so
hey, the
so
economy is doing great. Look, we had the greatest numbers. And then, well, I just lost my job. And
so
you guys are bickering about nonsense.
yeah, exactly. That's why people are so disappointed. I mean, you have the first one. This is everyone heard about this. I guess American Airlines has announced they're cutting 20% of the company's workforce upon the expiration of the federal aid. Their airline is set to furlough 19,000 people. That's a lot of families, a lot of people. Um,
Yeah, because that's 19,000 employees, but that doesn't even take into account all the other people that depend on them.
yeah. So we can scroll down to the next company. On October 1st, United Airlines furloughed 13,000 people. Um,
And they'll tell you that they
so
saved 3,370 jobs. That's what they'll
yeah.
tell you.
So
Goldman
so you have it here.
Sachs is cutting. Whoa. I
So
mean,
you got all
Goldman fucking Sachs.
yeah, a lot of kind of the financial managerial companies, business companies are also cutting down.
Yeah, that,
Allstate,
that, that place I used to get my insurance from. They didn't even want to take my money
yeah,
anymore.
yeah. So they're firing people because of that. So there you have it. Will allow employees to stay on their medical plan through the end of the year. This is also what's happening too, because in the United States, if people are watching from outside the United States, we have health insurance in the United States. A lot of times it's tied to your job. So if you lose your job, you lose your health insurance, and you lose your health insurance in the
During a
pandemic.
global pandemic, you
Yeah.
lose your health insurance. And there are still people that will tell you, well, just get another job. Pull yourself up by your bootstraps.
So everyone knew about Disney. I mean, I'm not taking any child to a theme park right now, but that's
I'm not
part
taking them to one
before
10 years from now. Shit.
they're cutting 28,000 jobs. Even after forcing them to work, now they're gonna let them go. So this is what Disney is doing to people right now. Um, so because they had a whole ordeal, the union was really trying to. They have union actually backed by union. They were trying to keep them from going back to work and get support. Ralph Lauren, everyone in the Apollo shirts might get a little more raggedy, the new ones. Um,
Mm.
So that's what's happening too. In the fashion world, they couldn't make enough masks, so that's what happened with a lot of
Yeah, I'm not
companies. So
surprised that the cruise industry is all fucked up.
yeah, we don't say. I thought the cruise ship is booming right now. I want to be in the
Hell
first wheel of
no. There ain't
germs
nobody
so
getting on a
badly.
cruise. After all of those people got stranded in December and January and February when the COVID was lighting up overseas, ain't nobody
No,
getting
we're
on a
not.
goddamn cruise ship now.
No. People are still getting on cruise ships. People still want to get on a pressure flush toilet that blows up all the other people's feces,
That's not
taking
what
them
my
out of your
intel is
face.
telling me. People are looking at them cruise ships like, what if they don't let the fucking cruise ship dock and then like I got the shit that I shitted out 10 days ago coming back up into the toilet in my room? Nah, son. Nah. Only thing that got left is fucking COVID-19 infected crackers for me to chew on. Nope. Nope.
So,
Nope.
so another airline company is shrinking their global fleet and workforce. Um, so 22,000 positions. So and
It had a
like we keep
surplus
saying,
of
20 that's
22,000. Mm. 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 Mm.
now we have defense companies so as well. They make the missiles that I guess we're not having enough wars, so they're cutting down their jobs as well. We're not making enough missiles for them. Um,
I mean, they could use those missiles to shoot at the virus, right? Because that's why Mitch McConnell put that F-35 jet in the coronavirus package, right? Start shooting
oh,
them. Start
oh,
shooting the viruses with the rockets.
Phil said, "Who's gonna build the cruise missiles? Who's gonna build the computers and the drone that murders families? Who's gonna do that? Oh well,
Yo, I
you
took
know."
that such a completely different way. A completely different way. We just talked about the cruise lines, and you talked about the cruise missiles, and then I was like, whoa. Did they create those missiles to like hit cruise ships? I don't know why I'm just thinking
oh
of this.
shit, oh shit, oh.
Wow, the viewers might think that I'm the one that smokes the weed. No, I'm just naturally that dumb. Sorry.
So now also the art world museums, because I don't think people want to stand in the art gallery for 2 hours looking at stuff with other people right now. Unfortunately, um, so a lot of that's happening as well.
Trump did say that we would get tired of winning. He did say that.
This is a real winning list right here. I feel so great about what's happening in this country with this list. Thank you, Donald Trump. This long list of all these jobs, all these families out in the streets. So Kohl's is cutting 15% in the corporate workforce, which is surprising because like if you're in the suburbs, you can see it's so weird. Kohl's is weird. Kohl's can have like a whole, like a shopping mall kind of spread, like when it's like the supermarket and some stores in a big parking lot. You
Mm.
know what I mean? So like you can go in the suburbs sometimes in parts of the country and it'd be like a Kohl's and everything else be closed in the shopping mall. Everything
Yep.
else be closed but the Kohl's.
Yep.
So now you're saying
Jan-
Kohl's is closing. So
Janet
that's
Mays.
not good.
Janet Mays says the cruise ship industry got bailout money and they don't even pay taxes on top of laying off their employees. That is really crazy because like when they give out money, it's supposed to be like the taxes that they collect is supposed to be like a rainy day fund so that if we need to fix infrastructure or we have like a fucking countrywide emergency like what we're going through, then you get some of that money back. But if you're like one of these cruise ship companies, what did you pay in to then get back in case of emergency? You didn't actually pay your goddamn taxes.
No.
So what are you getting bailout money for? You're a net negative on the country. You're a leech on society. The same way that they try to say that the Mexicans in this country are leeches because they don't pay taxes, when many of them pay massive amounts of taxes by stealing the identities of law-abiding Americans. But they get those payroll taxes paid, but they don't actually get the tax return the following tax season. So those people pay way more than $750 a year in taxes, right? But where are you going to get, like, how are you going to come to me if you're the owner of a cruise line and then tell me, well, I need some of that rainy day fund? Well, what did you pay into the rainy day fund, Mr. Carnival guy? Oh, yeah, we
But
did
but
some creative accounting. We didn't pay in, but hey, you got some millions for me?
But I don't know about the news. I think that's also, but also you have to realize that like a lot of these executives get like these massive bonuses,
Massive. Massive. And
massive
remember when they did the
bonuses.
bailouts for the banks in 2008, what did they turn around and do?
Yeah,
Massive bonuses.
like a
Like, what are you
golden,
getting a bonus for?
yeah, like or like a golden parachute because they know the company is falling apart and they get a bunch of money and
You
leave.
know, that's
But
what they did to Toys R Us. They
mhm.
leveraged. They bought it. They bought it. They bought it based upon debt. They bought the debt and then wrote the debt off, and then basically profited from destroying Toys R Us from the inside. Like when they
Mhm.
bought it, they had no intention on trying to make that company profitable. In fact, when they bought it, I think they had turned a small like $17 million profit. They were in the green, and then they took it into the red on purpose. And then after they basically killed the company, they picked the bones off the company and paid themselves ridiculous bonuses for killing the company.
I mean, you literally find dead bodies in Toys R Us. They found a dead body in the Toys R Us near King's Plaza the other day, a few months ago. So that's how terrible Toys R Us now is. So if Phil can scroll down the next article. So
Ugh,
that's pretty much it. That's
that's
all we
kind of
know
gruesome.
of 12 years. Huh?
That's kind of gruesome. I'm a
Yeah,
Toys
I
R
mean,
Us
yeah.
kid. Oh, dead body.
You want to see a dead body in Toys R Us, kid?
Oh
So,
shit. You didn't have to make that funny. You didn't have to do that. That was pretty fucked
so,
up.
but this is America. I mean, like, but this is the culture of morbid culture we have right now. We have 200,000, over 200,000 people dying. There should be like round the clock kind of memorial on local broadcast television of the pictures of people dying, but we don't have that. No one really gives a shit. It was really awful how we dealing with these deaths every day. So
Nah, they actually care
talking
more
about
about vineyards. They care more. I saw a
yeah, yeah.
eulogy for a fucking grape field in California. But it's like, what about the people who are dying, actual human beings? But you're doing a eulogy for some motherfucking grapes.
So I want
Man.
to. So I want to drop this video right here that kind of gets more perspective of what's happening with the airlines. Hopefully I can
October
hear
1st
it.
is fast approaching, the day when the CARES Act
Yes.
aid expires for airlines. Company CEOs have said the industry could face tens of thousands of furloughs if no extension is approved. I want to get over to Phil LeBeau right now, who joins us with more. Phil.
Andrew, you're looking at least 30,000 airline employees are scheduled to lose their jobs starting on Thursday. Now, that depends on whether or not there
All right,
is
so
an
I was wrong. I
extension
thought it
of
was
the CARES
tomorrow.
Act.
It was today.
We were talking about that earlier this morning. Yesterday, United Airlines announced that it had reached a deal with its pilots union, and that deal means that they're going to be laying off or furloughing fewer than 12,000 employees. Originally, it was supposed to be closer to 16,000. That's because they were able to, with this deal, prevent about 2,850 pilots from being furloughed on Thursday. What is the agreement between United and its pilots? Basically comes down to this. The pilots agree to fly fewer hours, so essentially a pay cut, but their jobs are going to be guaranteed until next June. 58% of the pilots at United approved this change. Meanwhile, you've
What
got
fucking
American
choice did
Airlines.
they have?
It has announced the largest number of scheduled furloughs.
This is breaking up a
19,000
lot.
scheduled to
I can't
start
really hear it,
on
but
Thursday.
the name Spot
American
Box
is
just
also
matches
scheduled
his
to
face.
borrow
So
$5.5 billion from the Treasury Department. That's the other deadline
That's
that's
fucked
coming
up.
up. That is tomorrow when airlines have to commit to whether or not they take a loan from the Treasury Department, or if they say, no, we're not going to do that. As you look at the passenger levels, keep in mind that what we're seeing here is passenger levels, they've leveled off between 65 and 70%. And at that level, the airlines are definitely going to have to become smaller. So the question becomes, does the government step in with some type of payroll aid? Take a look at shares of Southwest and Delta. And why are we showing you this?
now it's playing
Both
good.
of these
Now it's
airlines,
playing
along with
crisp now
Spirit,
for me.
they are foregoing Treasury loans. They have said, no, we are not going to be borrowing this money from the Treasury Department. We're still waiting to hear from several of the airlines. So far, American and United have both committed to taking Treasury loans. So the next couple of days will be really interesting, guys.
Hey, Phil, question for
I mean,
you, and I hope it's not a curveball here. Could you ever imagine an environment that's so challenged in the airline industry that there would be more consolidation, meaning the government would allow more consolidation given the circumstances of the industry?
Possibly.
Wow, that will push
Possibly, but
airline
not much
prices
more.
sky
I think that
high.
most people within the industry, when you talk with them,
One
believe
airline
that
company,
the
a
feeling
couple
is
of
that you're
airline
at the
companies,
right
that'd be
size in
kinda
terms of
awful.
the number of carriers right now. But there could be some on the edge there. Do you see a deal perhaps where somebody
They're gonna charge you to have
consolidates with a
shoelaces on your
JetBlue or
shoes.
consolidates with an Alaska? That's a possibility.
They're gonna
But
put
remember,
air in the
right now,
bag and charge people to breathe.
American, Delta, United, and Southwest, they control more than 80% of the market.
They're gonna
So
charge
you're not going to
you
see one
to
of
have
them
your legs
snap
on the
up
plane,
an
pretty much.
Alaska
If you want
Airlines,
your legs on the
because I
plane,
think that the
you
regulators
have to
would say,
pay
wait a
extra.
second.
You're gonna
Now
see
that
people
really
getting
becomes a
fucking
stretch.
plane side amputations.
And real quick, the reason that some of the airlines that you mentioned earlier are not taking the loans
Right.
is because they think that the warrants are too onerous? What's the rationale?
There's gonna be no
Combination
food
of
in the
warrants
plane.
being perhaps something that they don't want because it would be dilutive to shareholders, but
There would
also
be
they
cups
believe that
in the bathroom
they
for
can
the
get
toilet
to where
water,
they
though.
need to be strictly by
cups are
doing
extra.
this in the private market, and it gives them a little more optionality in terms of as they're repaying it, restructuring those debts down the road. That's the key right now for a number of these carriers. And also keep in mind, with both Southwest and Delta, they have a number of employees, a sizable number of employees who have decided to take unpaid leaves of absence.
Oh,
and
shit.
so at this point, they believe, let's do it in the private market. Look, if things continue to be terrible 6 months from now, and the government has to, step in again, they've got a little bit of wiggle room there in that they haven't already taken as much debt out as their competitors.
So that's the thing. So with Black Power Magic Hour, what I like to do, so the United States is such a clusterfuck. It's like, wow, it's a clusterfuck here. Why are they treating us like garbage here? Why are they treating us like so trash here? This video right here pretty much cut. Why is layoffs happening here? UK, Britain is not really dealing with the coronavirus well at all either, to be honest. But yet their layoffs is not as much as ours when it comes to proportion of population. So why is that? And this video kind of breaks that down.
October 2009 was the worst month of the worst year of the Great Recession. 1 out of every 10 Americans was out of work. It was bad, but not as bad as the worst year of the Great Depression, when the unemployment rate was 1 in 4. Few Americans alive today have ever seen that many people out of work. Until now.
Coronavirus outbreaks at meat packing plants, forcing many to close.
Ford, General Motors, and Fiat Chrysler all temporarily closing U.S. plants because of the coronavirus.
Parking lots bare. Retail stores, corporate offices all closed.
By the end of April 2020, 30 million Americans had filed unemployment claims. Economists estimated that the U.S. unemployment rate was about 13%, the highest since the Great Depression. But in some other countries,
Oh my God.
like the UK for instance, it's a totally different story. Factories, restaurants, all that stuff is closed. But this isn't happening. In the US, lawmakers have assumed that all these closed factories, shops, and restaurants have one inevitable outcome: mass unemployment. But what if that's wrong? What if millions of people didn't have to lose their jobs? What if it didn't have to be this way?
It usually doesn't have to be that way.
For most
but
of U.S. history, if you were laid off, you didn't have a lot of options. Churches and charities did what they could, but for the most part, you were on your own. That changed during the Great Depression. With help from the federal government, states began to hold back a share of every worker's paycheck. That money went into a fund that workers could tap into if they got laid off.
Workers in every state of the Union are now protected if they are temporarily laid off or lose their jobs.
The system worked pretty well, as long as too many people didn't lose their job all at once.
Our unemployment insurance system is well suited towards a very mild recession, where there's not a lot of stress put on the system.
But that is definitely not what happened during the coronavirus lockdowns. You can think of the economy as a web of connections. During normal times, every day, billions of dollars change hands across these connections between different companies and industries. Airlines pay oil companies for jet fuel. Those oil companies pay computer engineers to make software that helps them find new reserves. And those software companies pay ad agencies to make commercials for them. Then they pay to put those ads in front of things you like to watch. And a tiny portion of that money helps pay for us to make videos. We spend some of that money on, say, plane tickets for reporting trips, and the whole cycle repeats. During normal times, these connections are what allow businesses to pay their employees. If some connections break and a business lays off workers, unemployment insurance is there to help them get by until those connections reform and businesses are ready to hire again. But when the lockdown started and businesses closed down, lots of those connections broke away entirely. Businesses laid off millions of workers in just a few weeks, faster than any time in U.S. history. In response, Congress has passed several bills aimed at helping states get unemployment benefits to more people more quickly. But even if that helps in the short term, it might not be enough down the road, because once the lockdowns are over, many of those businesses simply won't be there anymore.
The businesses that I think will be particularly hard hit will be small and medium-sized businesses who just don't have enough in reserve.
Even if they lay off employees, businesses still have to pay rent, plus insurance, utilities, and other business costs. But there's no money coming in.
Without relief, those businesses are going to have no choice but to shutter.
Once the lockdown is lifted and it's safe to work again, a lot of businesses will be gone, and there will be way fewer jobs to come back to. Lots of unemployed people will likely stay unemployed, which will draw the economic crisis out even further. But things don't have to turn out that way. Just like in the US, most of the UK is on lockdown. Many of those connections between businesses have fallen off. But instead of waiting for workers to get laid off, the government in the UK is doing something different.
The way that they are going about it is saying to companies, we will pay you to pay your employees.
Workers get paid 80% of their previous salary, and businesses get help covering rent and other costs. Denmark and the Netherlands have put similar systems in place. In all of these countries, government support has put the economy on pause to keep it from falling apart later.
Everything is still there. Everything
Wow, the same shit I've been saying since March.
In the US, Congress did set aside a chunk of money for grants and loans to small businesses, in the hopes that they would keep their workers on payroll. But to get that money, business owners had to apply through commercial banks like Chase and Bank of America. That extra step, combined with the onslaught of applications, resulted in massive delays. By the time many small businesses got approval, the fund was already empty.
We missed a big wave. We've already done a lot of damage, but if we got something in place tomorrow, that could avert more layoffs.
When the US first set up unemployment insurance during the Great Depression, that idea didn't come out of thin air. Policymakers studied similar systems in England and Germany and then adapted them. This pandemic transcends national borders. The solutions should too.
So there you have it, pretty much. So there you have it. You saw what other countries did.
But here's the problem. Here's the problem. We got two main problems why we can't do what Britain does. Number one, the government does not give a fuck about you. They don't give a fuck. When I say about you, the government doesn't give a fuck about you, the individual taxpayer. They don't give a fuck about you, the individual small or medium business owner. Because you do not have the capital. Not only do you not have the capital in reserve, but you don't have the capital to line their individual pockets, the lawmakers, the House of Representatives, the Senate, the president, whoever. You don't have the money to buy politicians. But the larger companies have the money and the resources and the connections to buy the politicians. So in order for a benevolent government to help you, they got to first care that you exist. That's number one. Number two, the scale of the size of this country inherently makes it more difficult, even if the government actually gave a shit. You know, if you look at Britain, Britain has way less people that live there than we have. So it's a little bit easier to look at the interconnected web and then get that shit going. But when you have all of that scale and then you have people that don't care, it's impossible.
Dr. Virginius, if you realize the United States, even people say that excuse all the time about the United States. We're bigger, we want it, but the fact that we have the amount of resources we have, it doesn't matter. We're able to do.
But those resources belong to the wealthy.
Exactly.
80% of the company, 80% of the wealth in this country is owned by 11% of the citizens. the help and the funds belongs to 11% of the country. Fuck the 89. Fuck the 89%. That's how they feel. So when you mix the scale with the fact that they don't care about us, it's impossible.
And we have, I mean, for me, I just feel like this situation where we have all these news stories.
Yeah, but they base everything on per capita. Ain't that a bitch, right?
We have the situation here right now when like people are saying that all these small businesses are just going to disappear by like the beginning of next year. What does that mean? At the same time, we have massive profits from like giant corporations like Amazon and like Facebook and like who fills in the gap for these small businesses, so to speak. And but I also want to for me, people don't realize like the fight for the raise the minimum wage. That fight is actually finally getting $15 an hour now. For this to happen now, when we finally got $15, is also kind of bad too in a way. It's like $15 is not enough, but at this point, who's going to complain when like Amazon's offering $15 and all the stores are closed in your town? So this is a situation we're approaching here when like,
Jeff Bezos is licking his lips.
We have disruption of the wages. We talked about that with the gig economy as well. We have disruption of wages that happen as well because there's such a flood of people of various experiences, various levels of like income, and they're everyone's lowering their wages, lowering their rates to compete. So
can I give a shout out? Can I give a shout out to Janet Mays? Because Janet Mays, I don't know. I would really appreciate it if you got the fuck out of my head. I was about to say exactly what the fuck you just said. So I'm going to read what she just said. It's almost like they wanted to kill off all the small businesses so that people would have to deal strictly rich corporations such as Walmart. I was thinking about Amazon. Jeff Bezos is licking his fucking lips. All of the people that he could have had to compete against are gone. But not just for goods and services, but for employment. So if you have all of these people who are desperate for employment, they are going to be begging Amazon for those slavery conditions in those fulfillment centers. They're going to be begging them to pay them $1.50 an hour so that Jeff Bezos can be the first trillionaire in February 2021. He loves this kind of shit.
And to go back to the UK, I don't know if people remember London actually banned Uber from London.
I remember that.
As you saw in California, remember Lyft and Uber threatened to leave California, and California,
if they had to treat their employees like human beings.
Yeah. And then California, as you saw, they folded and let Uber stay and keep abusing people, and so that's what happens in this country as well. You see, no one really stands up in that kind of strong level against these gig economy places, and we need more power for that. But I have a feeling that that's what's going to be building towards as more people get into the app business and see like, wow, you're taking all this money from my salary. More people are going to like start, building up, organizing around gig economy. So we saw the cab drivers like stop on Brooklyn Bridge. They stopped up the Brooklyn Bridge, the Manhattan Bridge. So we have that kind of actions happening, So when it comes to, layoffs and furlongs and like gig economy and Walmarts and Amazons and Ubers and not doormat. They treat
DoorDash.
Like they treat like doormat. DoorDash. Yeah.
You know what? It's actually kind of disrespectful to even call it the Freudian slip, right? I think it's disrespectful to even call that an economy, the gig economy. What it is, the gig economy is not an economy. It's a way to subvert the economy. It's a way to. It's like they finally found a way. They've been looking for ways to try to treat people like shit. Like back from the Industrial Revolution over 100 years ago, they were looking for excuses to treat employees like shit and not compensate them. And it's like, the independent contractor loophole. Yeah, I can get in there. Yeah, let's turn everybody into independent contractors so that we don't have to pay them.
Or give them health insurance, or give them vacation.
Because that's part of compensation, but independent contractors don't get that. And you know why independent contractors shouldn't get that? Because they charge a lot more money for their services so that they can go out and be able to afford health care. That's the point of that, right? But they found a way to say, you're an independent contractor, but we're going to pay you minimum fucking wage. So you don't even have enough money to get back and forth from work the next day. And hey, if you can't do it anymore, we'll hire somebody else who's desperate that will.
Yeah. And so that's Dash and Bash.
Maybe we need to build some kind of bartering systems to bypass the corporations. I don't know if we have the populace who is disciplined enough to do that. I mean, you have black people that won't stop watching American professional football leagues, even though they support racist positions against black people. Even black people can't stop turning the channel to their game. So I don't think that people are going to be. I don't think that they're going to be, what's the word I'm looking for? Disciplined enough. They're not going to be disciplined enough to turn off the conveniences of life. Like it's nice. It's like, hey, we can bypass the corporations. Yeah, that's all well and good, but.
You talking about an Amazon strike? A theoretical Amazon?
No, they're talking about like us delivering goods and services. Just go back to bartering. Like I do personal training for you, you put food in my face, like that kind of thing, right? Like people are addicted to the conveniences.
But the thing is, the technology is there for that to happen, for that to be more kind of to be that way. I mean, to be more like no middleman taking a cut from you. It should be that way. We have the technology to do it. That's what these gig apps represent. We do have the technology, but yet somehow our cut is being
used against us. Yeah.
So I mean, that's.
But also look at who owns the technology, though.
Yeah. So that's Dash and Bash. Follow us on YouTube and Twitter to get the lowdown. We have similar segments that break down what's going on.